y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you hit subscribe yet, please do. We'd love to have you. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing music. I always appreciate that. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Y'all know you can find me on my website, thecryptidhuntress.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. Right now, I am running a huge sale in my shop, War Woman Goods. That's on Etsy. So you guys, please do your Christmas shopping with War Woman Goods this Christmas, okay, in this holiday season. We have a fantastic guest here tonight at Spaced Out Radio. I have Barry Littleton here with me tonight. And don't forget that right after the show, After Hours has an amazing program set up for us once again. And I just received word that a dear friend to the show, Linda Goffrey, passed away today. So on behalf of the entire team at Spaced Out Radio, we send our heartfelt condolences to her family, and we wish her well in the next phase of her journey here. And we all we're just thinking about her tonight here on this show. So we're going to dedicate this show to Linda Goffrey tonight. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, let's get to our guest tonight. Y'all know I got Barry Littleton here, and he is a good friend of mine. He was born awake with fragmented past life memories. He began having paranormal experiences at a young age, and they included telepathic awareness, seeing or feeling ghosts, and various inorganic beings. These encounters and some of the entities themselves had a distinct extraterrestrial origin that led him into a lifetime of research and exploration into the metaphysical and the paranormal. And he's here with me tonight. We're going to talk about some really cool time travel and timeline stuff tonight. Hey, Barry.
Greetings. Hello, Jessica. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Of course. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Like I say, you're my sidekick.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Right.
You know, I'm excited that for those that aren't aware, we'll be joining a conference that will be going on in May with Journey to Truth. And I think I'm really honored to be a part of that. And I think it'll be a nice experience, and look forward to getting to work with you again in person and everybody that's going to be there. It's a real nice chance to really meet people live at those conferences. And it's always about the people that are the attendees that I find that are so enlightened. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. And Barry, I met you almost a year ago. It's a little over a year now. At a conference in Georgia at Camp Disclosure. You and I met for the first time. I was so excited to meet you, and you were excited to meet me.
Yeah, you were the person I wanted to meet the most of everybody that was there. So
ditto. Same here. And so now we're actually speaking together again at this conference. It's Journey to Truth. It's going to be in Illinois, Grafton, Illinois, May. I believe it's the 22nd through the 25th. Of next year. So everybody get your tickets. Go to Journey to Truth Con. I believe it's journeytotruthcon.com and get your tickets. Come join me and Barry. We're going to be live and in action, live action.
It'll be cool. This is this is probably the third time I've worked with Aaron and Tyler, Journey to Truth, and they do a really good job. They put on really nice conferences, and I like how they do business, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. So
I love those guys. Yes, they're awesome. And they're really big into the secret space program, and a lot of disclosure going on at Journey to Truth. So we've got some disclosure of our own, Barry, right? We're going to be talking about, yeah. Well, you know, I wanted to bring you on tonight to talk to you about something that was really interesting that I did some research on this past couple weeks. And it was Project Pegasus and time travel and teleportation and things like that. I just thought that it was very, very interesting because you and I have talked about timeline shifts and the Mandela effect and CERN, but we had never talked about this holographic timeline, time jumps and jump rooms and things like that. So I thought maybe we could talk about this because you've done some videos on these exact subjects. So are you cool to talk about that with me tonight? Absolutely.
Okay. I think we're probably already been about as much trouble as we're going to get in lately. So
Oh man, we are so on a list. I tell you what, I don't know whose list, but we're on some kind of list somewhere. Yeah. Well, we're not scared to share what we know with people, um, with the masses, and I think that it's time. Speaking of disclosure, it's okay for us to question these things. I don't have any inside information. I'm not working for the federal government or anything. Um, but I have questions. I've had a lot of experiences that I just can't explain, and um, and so have you.
For me, my experiences have tied into time technology or what could be time travelers and different beings, some of which are humanoid, that are obviously manipulating the space-time continuum to some degree. And I had to,
Yeah.
really deal with that, just confronted by these experiences. So it led me into a very much a fascinating with time science, time technology of various types. Excuse me. Concerning the things with this quantum, project Pegasus you were all talking about, that
Yes.
takes us into those quantum synthetic environments, those jump rooms.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting for a personal experience of my own. One of those is this thing that had come down during this ship, this helmet, and they called it a synaptic gap helmet. And it was capable of some type of virtual reality scenario that allowed a frame of reference for me to communicate during the experience, because you're off
Yeah.
in a vibrational way. And then they started warning me, that this technology has been corrupted by lower vibrational beings. So that takes us all into the different beings that generate not these technology, but some of them can do it optically and consciously through us to project things through our optic nerves and sense wise that we can't tell what's virtual
Yeah.
reality, what is and what isn't. I mean, hundreds of years beyond the stuff we have now. And it takes us into stuff like Star Trek, the holodeck, but them using some type of a particle synthesis that makes things much more tactile,
Yeah.
So, it's food for thought, and stuff like that going on is really disconcerting to a degree, but it's good to be aware of,
It is. It's so interesting that you said that something that had been corrupted, much like another subject that you and I have looked into, and I did a show on, you joined me, about orbs over crop circles. And we can even discuss that tonight a little bit, because when I remote viewed these orbs at your request, you know,
Thank you for
um,
that.
yeah, I saw that there was an original form of an orb that came from source creation, from source energy, that was sending humanity these beautiful messages, and trying to help guide us along. But those orbs had become corrupted in some way, and so they were being used for dark stuff, kind of. They were more of a dark energy, Barry. Do you remember that, right? Yeah,
Yes,
that was
yes.
weird. Yeah.
It's so interesting when dealing with the orbs too, when the different perspectives. Like, for example, what John Vavinko had said, that what they were when they remote viewed that he said that they're also seeing during those portals that there were so many beings from the other side trying to squeeze through the portal at one time, that when the
Yeah.
those that actually make it through, the squeeze through, it's like you and me trying to put our head in a mustard bottle or something together. It'd be really tough. But those
Ouch.
that come through emerge on this side in a collective form, in a plasma type of a ball form, orb form.
Yeah.
And that takes us, into those other beings that actually can use their things. We want to call it the Merkaba and the dream body, that can actually shift it to a type of a spear or an orb for intergalactic, interdimensional travel. That's another thing we're
Yeah.
seeing in a lot. And that takes us into that whole quantum hologram thing. When you have beings that are using space and using these wormholes, and, we have to just deal with right now, portals exist. That's no longer really a question. That is a fact. We need to really deal with that and look at that much more deep. And what the quantum hologram is, that you got something going through there, creating a copy on the side of it and on the front of it, right here. That's so that's that's why some of these orbs you're seeing these faces in them. A lot of times people will see that. They see these orbs. I've seen tons of pictures look like grays or other things in that orb. That's that whole quantum hologram thing, and it takes us into this orb phenomenon. Anyway, sorry, that's probably going far away from what we were wanting to talk about. But when dealing with this quantum synthetic environment, that's hardcore, you know?
It is.
And knowing that some of these orbs can be microscopic, but if they get in our field of awareness, in our biofield, they can completely shift our perception and alter our perception.
Wow.
You know, stuff like that is going on out there at that ranch. I talked about that device in there, that thing that's called an Orbs station. It's using some type of an Orbs technology. It scans your body, your biofield, all right, and then it produces some type of an orb that does something to forward your consciousness. You know, it's very interesting when you start really looking at that scientifically and what they're finding out about these quantum holograms and the fabric of space. Anyway, sorry, I just think that connects so much, this quantum environment synthetic thing we're talking about, that it's just worth mentioning that, you know, because it goes
absolutely
hand in hand, not the separate classifications we want it to be.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you and I have touched on wormholes and, you know, Mel's hole, that whole deal, you know, and
whoa, that was a heavy one.
The parallel worlds. Yeah, that was a rough one, actually. That was kind of fun. I like that. I like that show.
You know, I think it's worth touching on that.
Yeah.
Since we're supposed to be talking about time traveling too. Your data for Mel's hole was different than I thought. I mean, it expanded the possibilities, but it made a lot of sense. And what you saw data-wise with Mel's hole is coupled with what we already know about it, but it's very much what anyone that likes time science, look up what Mike Tipler was talking about, a Tipler cylinder. Tipler cylinder, a Tipler cylinder. It's capable of matter transport, also super faster than superluminal velocities, also all sorts of stuff. But the Tipler cylinder actually rotates it's rotating, a rotating cylinder. But that's what you kept describing all your data as Mel's hole being. And that describes why things can be thrown in there, why there's things coming out of different dimensions in there and lights being emitted out of there. It explains a lot of it. So I challenge everybody, I encourage everybody to look up Tipler cylinder when Mel's hole. I'm gonna start trying to make videos again, and that's a big one I want to make, is a Mel's hole number 3 video, because that's based on the data you got. But when dealing with time science and whatever created that, okay, it's using that actual hole, the drag frame that's created by the Earth, and the drag frame creates this closed timeline curves. It's a whole nother thing they're doing there. And the technology that did that is centuries beyond us.
Wow.
Fascinating. You know, anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I also have to give credit to Tanya Braddock. She also remote viewed that with me, and we all three did that show together. So she and I both had very similar data, but also different in a lot of ways too, because we were touching on it from so many different angles, you know, with Mel's hole, with that tumor cell and all that other weird stuff. So that was interesting though. And I'll have you also know that I am in a group chat with Grant Cameron and Nicole Sackage and some other people who are very much into the UFO community. And we're all talking about orbs. Okay. And so there's a very big interest in orbs right now, and trying to get to the bottom of what orbs are. Well, you know, you and I have seen that video that I always bring up with the aliens that turn into orbs and orbs into aliens, that thing. But there's so many different types of orbs, and where are they coming from? You know, and I don't know. It's all connected.
I love the comment. I appreciate what they're doing, but differently from what I'm learning firsthand. What do you know firsthand? I mean, lay it on there. Type it in there. Yeah. What do you know? What do you know that contradicts the whole quantum hologram of what I just said? I challenge that. Yeah. Because right now I know for a fact, like, give you an example, Jessica. When I thought about this orb station, OR station, wherever that is, if you even know what that is, look that up. Try the Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hertog. Anyway, this thing is scanning people's life memories. And, you know, I did a thing in 2019, we had to go do a sky watch. Not my thing. Other people are speaking, had to go lead one of those. I've never done one before. It's not my thing, because once you call in these craft and they come too close and you start missing time, it's not always that cool. So be careful who and what you're calling in, okay? Anyway, doing this, I did an exercise that was a pineal gland exercise, a really, really powerful one. And it's a little foolish to show it, but it's good. And when this was over, you have so many people in the crowd, the attendees, that you have mediums and clairvoyants. The attendees, they start saying that there's several of them saying, I'm seeing this grid. They keep describing this grid of energy they're seeing. And I'm positive it's this thing being emitted by that Orbs station that's scanning people's soul life memories. Then it will produce an orb. And people take pictures out there of orbs all the time. You know what I mean? It emits something that pushes your consciousness forward. Like, let's say for being example, you've not experienced a cat being. So I did out there. So I had to make sure this thing wasn't scanning me and putting something in, influencing me in that way. It really behooves one to be aware of these concepts and these things and not just put it down.
It does. Anyway, Barry, honestly, it was making my brain hurt almost going into all of this Project Pegasus stuff and all the timeline jumps and shifts and jump rooms that I was looking into and talking with Dr. John Stamey about on Wednesday on my show on the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube. You guys go check that out, everybody in the audience.
I apologize. I didn't get to see that one. So
well, it's okay. I should have sent it to you, but we kind of scheduled this last minute, Barry, today. So, but yeah, it's I'll talk about it tonight. We talked about Project Pegasus, and Dr. John Stamey is actually has talked personally with Andrew Basiago, who claims to was involved as a child in Project Pegasus, and that is a clandestine program, allegedly, that our government was using for time travel, for holographic time travel and teleportation. Where back in the 1960s and 1970s, it's reported, and what he claims is they were using children such as himself to time travel. They put them into jump rooms where they would travel back into time, where he claims that he went into the theater where President Abraham Lincoln was shot 5 different times and witnessed different people killing him, shooting him with the gun, according to which timeline he was on. That they put him in, but sent him back through different timelines. Now, there is a picture that he claims is himself back during the Gettysburg Address. He claims that they dressed him up as a bugle boy. He's the little boy in the middle of the picture there with the big shoes, is what he claims. And they sent him through that jump room into the Gettysburg Address, along with other children, other boys. But he ended up in that picture right there, according to him. But he's claimed that they would take messages to presidents, basically taking presidents' messages from the future, to steer humanity and somebody's agenda, which is a little interesting, right, Barry? It's interesting because they're sending messages. Who's giving those messages? Who's in charge? They're changing our history and our timelines. And then where does CERN come into all of this? Where they're turning CERN on, and then we're all jumping into different timelines now, according to someone's opinion.
Superluminal communications and quantum tunneling, that's sending messages normally backwards faster than the speed of light through time. They're doing that. That's technology they have. They can do that now. And it behooves us to really just be aware of that, and what they try to send things in the back to change what timeline we're on now. One of them being nuclear war and other things that they're trying to put this planet on, which I think actually is terrible and sucks. But, Andrew Basiago talked a lot about the Montauk chair also. I thought that was real interesting. The lady that had designed my website, as far as I met her once and we spoke together. And it's so interesting at this conference, somebody stepped up and asked if any of us had been involved in the secret space program and some of the really more negative aspects. I have to say no, and several people said no. But the one lady that did my website, she sat there and she said, I think I had been in that thing that they call that Montauk chair. Oh. And when she had told me about it, being her father was in the Air Force and she had been on a base or something and was in this room that she thought it was a dentist chair. I mean, I talked to her about it extensively when she was doing the stuff for my website. And it's just fascinating to hear stuff like that. So I don't discount it at all. And she said that what she really started having, what brought back the memories of this, is when she heard Andrew Basago telling his story. So, you know, so it's not for me to discount any of that. And I think there's some nefarious things going on concerning manipulation of the timelines. And to address, somebody had said something about they'd had some negative experiences believing involving the virtual reality scenario technology. I believe it, you know, and what really brought my attention to that was not just my experience, but Carla Turner had some horrible experiences with that. So I don't discount anybody having that. And I really, my feelings, my emotions go out to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you endured that, because that's traumatizing, and that trauma stores in our body. And it can affect the fact that's a medium and a clairvoyant talking right now, and there may be other beings trying to communicate with them, and that makes it hard because you've been traumatized. So that's you know, my heart goes out to you.
Wow. Yeah, you know, it was not only President Lincoln that this project was kind of centered on. It was also JFK, President Kennedy, and his assassination, and
Did he look at that one too? Did he go see how many people? Same person always shot JFK, or was a different person like that?
I'm not sure if it was the same or not, but Dr. Sammy and I got on this topic, and so because he gave me the percentages during the show that day, and he said 75% of the time it was Oswald, 13% of the time it was a bullet that came from the grassy knoll. Okay. And then 2% of the time it was Jack Ruby that shot him. Okay. And then there was another percentage of the time it was just somebody else. I don't know. Some people say it could have been even Jackie, you know, like under MK Ultra mind control. But what's interesting is it was somebody different every time they went back and viewed this on a different timeline. So there were different timelines where different people killed him. No, but regardless, he was killed that day, assassinated. But it was different people according to which timeline. And so somehow they were able to put us on a particular timeline. I mean, I've heard that also it was partly because he was actually planning on giving out information about UFOs and ET contact and things like that. So there's someone in charge, them, that needed to put us on a different timeline. Okay. And so they're able to go back and change these things. So this just, it really did make my brain hurt, Barry, looking into this stuff, because it almost doesn't make sense. It makes total sense, but it also makes no sense at all. Okay. So.
Well, you know, I mean, I do believe, you know, there are definitely forces trying to jump our timelines, both in the private sector here on Earth right now, but also I think there are forces that are interdimensional, extraterrestrial, that are trying to shift this place to something, you know, very negative like that. And I you know, back in the 90s, in the late 90s, Art Bell used to run his Coast to Coast AM thing every night. And sometimes he would just open it up for time travelers, people that claim to be time travelers, real time travelers. And, you know, he'd take people live, and sometimes some of that's on like YouTube and other places, but he did it a lot. And some of the stories, some of the information, some of these supposed time travelers would say was fascinating. I can remember one guy saying he was from 20 something. And he's saying everything will start changing when you see, he kept claiming that there'd be a black president. And Art Bell's like, oh, I don't say that. There wouldn't be a female president either. And he said, but also everything's going to change and everything will be streamed. He used that word. Everything will start being streamed. Yeah, he said everything, you'll know everything's changing then. So it's little stuff like that comes up, you know, that I think is fascinating. Along with my own experiences, I've seen something that makes me question what real historians are like from the future.
Yeah. Well, and Barry, you've actually, I've heard you talk before about seeing yourself as an older man, right? Or when you were younger.
Yeah. That's what started the whole really trip on time travel, time science. Yeah, I was walking home one day, and I was just, a lot of stuff happened to me when I was 7. and it was this brother standing on the bridge not far from where I lived. And he looked like he was a relative, but when I got close, I tried to get a little close to see him, and he stepped back. But it really was just a trip, because in the neighborhood I lived, I knew all other African Americans in that area. Okay, and this was not anybody I was really related to, but it looked like a family member. And then years later, I wound up seeing this individual. What he's wearing is something I'm wearing when I'm, decades later. I'm in my 20s, early 20s, and it really, really tripped me out. When you experience something like that, it's that the way it makes you feel, that deja vu type of a feeling that happens with that, it's really disconcerting. And for, I think, a lot of people, when you're around also this time technology, or there's a time shift that they so casually call the Mandela effect now, it feels like the deja vu effect is one of the effects we get from that. Those of us that are time sensitives, unquote. Food for thought.
Absolutely. And Barry, I honestly have, I feel like I have some sort of mission to do with some kind of time travel. Okay. To learn about it, to do something with timeline shifts. I'm not sure exactly what that is yet, but I do know that when I was doing field research in the Meadow, that infamous spot that my team researches cryptids and UFOs and ETs and portals, I was walking on the trail one night when I had two of my research friends with me, and I very clearly heard a woman's voice, and she goes, "Time travel," really loud. And the other day I started thinking, I think that was me. I think that was me that said that from across the creek. I mean, is that weird or what? I never thought of it like that. That could have been my voice. And it's saying time travel. So I don't know. I think I don't know what's going on in this world, but there's a chance.
Yeah, the time shifts and all that. It's sometimes I think it's much more subtle than we give credit for, or something like that. I don't know, but I've I encountered, and look, I'll just eat a little bit of crow, okay? Because especially when I first came forward, I often jested how all the Pleiadians and all the Nordics always look like Fabio and Kevin Sorbo, and then when they kind of always represented that way. Christy Brinkley, you know what I mean? And it's a
beautiful.
It's a burnout for anybody who's melanin dominant, though. It's like, man, okay, do any look like me? Do any contactees or any extraterrestrials? I've heard about it, but it's stuff like that. So anyway, but I had encountered these Nordics. And there was when I was younger, and one of them was by Alex, and I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that these individuals, I've called humanoids like him charters always, because these charters seem to come around every 7 years for those of us that are lifetime contactees. And, when I first came forward talking about this, I got the most responses about this, like in an airport or in a bookstore. Somebody steps forward to you who's got a high vibration, and they just say some heavy stuff, man. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, got too carried away. Heavy stuff, okay. And then they just slip back into the crowd. But it's something that really illuminates you in some way, raises your consciousness, and it's really a trip. And it's often been said sometimes we interact with those that are angelic or extraterrestrial, and we don't know it. And they come around every 7 years. They're humanoid, but the thing about them is, if you can detect energy, to me, their energy is it pushes you in a way that's different. Not like somebody with ADHD, but just more advanced. Like if we don't destroy ourselves in the next 1,000 years, 2,000 years, what will people be like? That type of advanced biofield.
Yeah. And some people say aliens are going to look like little grays.
Yeah. I call them charters, but I think now that actually they're more historians. That's based on another experience I had with them as a kid. I think they might be more historians. So what the device I saw them using, but the technology around them, was something similar to what in a different level could be called the etheric chronovisor.
Yeah. Wow. The Chronovisor. Now, before we go on to the Chronovisor, because I'd love to talk about that, Dark Protocol had a question. Do you have any thoughts on the time traveler John Titor? Titor?
Yes, I do. That's a great question. Thank you,
Okay.
Dark Protocol. I like that name too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I had first heard about John Titor, it was on that website. Everybody thought it was Art Bell, but it wasn't. It's actually he was on that website, and the stuff that he had said about that time device, which he showed pictures of in that Corvette, and he even gave the patent for it. That stuff I thought was very, very convincing. And he's really the one that put CERN on the map, because by no means is CERN the first Hadron Collider, well, the first
Large Hadron Collider.
Cyclotron, they called it when I was a kid. There's one called the Cosmotron. The Cosmotron was fired up in the 60s. Okay, check that out, Cosmotron. So CERN is by no means the first, but he said that they would inadvertently discover time travel. And then he gave that patent and the machine and all that. And I thought that was really interesting. And that machine, I tried to examine the patent and everything. To me, it demonstrated something that was using closed time-like curves. That's not that far out. So I would say John Titor is probably one of the prime ones people need to look at. There was another one too, Dark Protocol. In fact, it's on my YouTube channel. Not, it might only be on the Patreon side. I can try to forward it to Jessica. It's a guy that called in Art Bell that said he was from the year 2034 and also 2036. He called in two different timeline events when he did that. And the stuff he was saying about his device he used to get here and why he came here was really interesting, almost as interesting as the John Titor thing. So that's and I think the guy said he's from 2036, somewhere close to the years John Titor said he was from. So I think that's relative. One last thing, when dealing with CERN and what Titor was saying, what I started looking into more is with CERN, even more so than the others, that exotic particles that they're creating for just a millisecond. Those exotic particles, that's some of the ones that maybe what's more alleviating to what he's talking about. So anyway, so I think it's credible.
Yeah. Wasn't there a guy that had claimed to, I guess he came back, he was a time traveler, and he won a whole bunch of money doing stock trading or something. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I read that a few times. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but
there's so many whales manipulating that whole system that it's
that's not a bad gig. But I mean, how do you defend that in court? You know what I'm saying? Or how do they prosecute you on that unless you know something? I don't know. That's really interesting. So we were talking about the Chronovisor. Okay, let me see. I think I have a picture of this. The Vatican. Okay, they have a lot of hidden science, time science down there, allegedly. And there's something called the Chronovisor. I've talked about this before on shows in the past, maybe not on Spaced Out Radio, but at some point I've talked about this. They're able to see into the past and take pictures. Allegedly, this is a picture of Jesus. So I don't know if this is real. I mean, that's one of the Barry.
That's the way he looked. Oh, he should have shown that. He knows it'll make me laugh. Come on. Okay, what were you saying? I'm sorry. You caught me off guard with that. That was a good one. Okay, what were you saying?
No, seriously, they said that was a picture of Jesus from the Chronovisor. I don't know. You know, I pull up weird stuff sometimes. It may or may not be Jesus. I don't know. But they claim that they're able to see into the past and into the future with this Chronovisor. Now, what do you know about the Chronovisor, Barry?
Pretty sorry. Everybody's get mad at me. Pretty much
I can make you laugh.
Pretty much what you were saying. The experience I had when I was young. Okay, on this craft with this gentleman, this Nordic. He moved on board this craft. He moves his hand. I've got illustrations of this on my YouTube channel that I've had done. He raised his hand, and suddenly this metal-looking wall is like see-through. Okay, and I can actually see, and it shows something about the bilocation that can happen during this encounter because I can see my mother and I standing down there, but I can also see okay, the city that I lived in, the water tower, all that stuff. But it looked like almost you could fall through it, like the translucent. It went almost to the part of the floor was also like this.
Okay.
And that's when I realized, and this ship from the outside, I've got illustrations of this also, is one of the few crafts I've seen that look like it had windows on the outside. And the ones I can only speak to my experiences, the craft I've been on board are organic. Not that this one wasn't, but they don't have windows, especially on the outside. That's what this had. And I think this was some type of a time ship. And this room I was in was just one that you have these time officers or whatever they are that are actually historians using that technology to actually record historical events. Wow. And I think that's similar to the Chronovisor, but on a higher level, technology-wise. But I think the Chronovisor is something quite similar. I can understand that you actually can hook up the Chronovisor, though, and be there, though, in the middle of that situation. So once again, virtual reality scenario technology.
VR. That's right.
VRST, baby.
Tell me a little bit, Barry, about these time agents and these people who are kind of in charge of, are they the ones who are putting us on the right timelines that they want us to be on? Or are they assigned to that?
You know, I think what they're doing is trying to stop incursions. And, you know, a lot of science fiction has done science fiction, like even Star Trek did one like that. And, you know, I did a video and I called these Nordics I encountered the Temporal Integrity Commission, because that's something I'd taken from Star Trek, these time officers basically that are trying to stop these incursions. And we know right now something's going on. There's these shifts, these time shifts, this Mandela effect thing going on. And we did another show talking about that, several things that people just seem to not remember that go beyond just the Bernstein Bears and stuff like that. I think one you had mentioned was the gun that the guy had and the Scarecrow had and
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. I posted that on Facebook. I couldn't believe how many people commented on that and didn't remember it. And it comes down to how much of just a regular movie edit was that opposed to something else, you know. But there are other things that come up too, like what was it, Hurricane Aaron during 9/11. No one seems to remember that Manhattan was in the middle of a hurricane was going on.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, for some reason 9/11 it was just crystal clear that day. But anyone could look up NOAA Hurricane Aaron. That'll come right up. You know, it's just fascinating little stuff like that are these time shifts that sometimes we'll catch. That's one way, and I think deja vu, like I said, is another way that we catch it sometimes. It's fascinating, and they tend to occur during times of high solar activity. High solar activity is when these time shifts and the Mandela effect starts happening a lot.
Well, do you think that's because they're turning CERN on? Could it be that? Or all these little hadron colliders? There's large hadron colliders all over the world, from what I've been told. And someone in the chat on Wednesday was mentioning that he said there were 30,000 large hadron colliders all over the world and 30 main large ones, is what he said. Now, I don't know.
But I know they're Fermilab and little ones, other ones like that, but I don't know how many there are. That's a huge number. I mean,
that's massive. So that would mean that they would be on a grid of some sort. And, you know, are some of us over here in the United States and North America getting turned into one timeline while people over in Australia are putting in another one? And I'm so confused.
I think when dealing with timelines, it's not those colliders that are doing it.
Okay.
I think you've got other things that are in the private sector, like these time reactors, you know, and these things that are based on you being used by quantum computers. You know, I've given enough platform that I have the blessing of communicating with other contactees, and some that are high level in terms of, like, one of them is somebody does artificial intelligence for the Fortune 5 companies or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, they asked me something, Jessica. They said, Barry, have you actually seen a quantum computer? And I thought, well, yeah, I've seen the D-Wave. This is this thing in a case, but that's not really what one technically looks like. If you look up the IBM quantum computer, what it actually looks like, you know, it's just an amazing coincidence that it looks like an upside down time rotor from Doctor Who, the middle of the TARDIS.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does. Look one up. It's just fascinating. But when you're dealing with possibly trying to deal with time warp fields and stuff like that. These quantum computers is the way to go. And I think there's a lot of that going on in the private sector that we don't know about till it shows up on our doorstep or appears in the medical profession, you know.
Interesting. Well, there's no doubt that there are people watching all over the world for when the solar flares act. What is that called? The Ascension Diaries on YouTube or Instagram. She tracks that, the solar flares and things like that. You know, that has a profound effect on our Earth when that happens, and our electronics and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just messes with the matrix. In some weird way. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're just in some weird program, just like on the Matrix. Like they're just like hitting a button and we just change programs, you know, we upload something new or we, you know, delete.
You know, there's these things between the Earth and the sun, these things called diffusion regions. And what they are is the magnetic fields of the sun and the Earth where they meet creates these doors, these portals that open. Scientifically, they say how many minutes or whatever it is, but stuff like that is very real. Yeah. And thinking about, you know, like scientifically, just how much the sun really is active. You look at the Soho website and you start really learning how to look at the data on there, the different nanospectrums, the colors that they show the sun. Soho takes a picture of the sun like every couple minutes or something it is. And, you know, you get just this data and you start seeing things going in and out of the sun. That's much more than just trick photography or anything like that. You know, to the point to where really when you start seeing some solar flares being emitted that could possibly be Earth directed, you see something like a big spear there blocking it. Some people put this on YouTube. I mean, but anyone could go to the Soho website and start looking up the data, but there's a bunch of it. It's kind of hard to figure out how to look, but once you figure it out, it's fascinating. It shows these things going in and out of the sun, and that's really these type 4 and 5 civilizations that are using space itself and the power, the primary power, parent star as their primary power source. Whole nother thing. Something's going on there.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, including the guy who was involved in Project Pegasus was talking about, and he's written a book about it, about visiting other planets through jump rooms. What exactly is a jump room, Barry? And how does that work? Is that like a holographic time travel or something like that?
My understanding is they call it quantum synthetic environment, which is something similar to like a holodeck on the Star Trek, like a holodeck. But my understanding the inside of it is they're using a type of particle synthesis that's very advanced that leads for much more reality. But my understanding is that that's what they're actually using, these holographic overprints to where you'd be anywhere. So they say it's Mars, but it's actually the holographic room there that you think you're on Mars, but it's exact as what is there, apparently. That's my understanding of these jump rooms anyway. But to me, they're synthetic environments, quantum synthetic environments is what they're called, QSEs. So.
Wow. Well, so would that be what these little boys were going into and going in through the jump room into the Gettysburg Address areas and things like that? I mean, it's almost like
that's what he says, isn't it?
Yeah,
more or less. And so it would be, they would still be probably within the quantum hologram, though, opposed to being there actually maybe physically like we would think. You know, but that's when the whole thing just gets tricky, doesn't it?
It's all tricky.
Yeah. Well, it's technology designed to deceive our senses, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Look at all the celebrities. I mean, I remember back after Tupac Shakur died, and it was like a huge deal that he was up on stage performing as a hologram after he died at a concert. And that was a big deal, but that was kind of the soft, you know, I don't want to say disclosure.
I kind of think that looked fake, though. That looked really.
It was so fake. That looked fake.
It made me go, "Oh my gosh, it's Tupac!" How's that? I was like, "Oh,
yes, it was totally. It was, but it was a slow rollout of what they were getting us ready for. Okay, because they'd already had these kids going out to Gettysburg back in the 1960s. Okay, for Lincoln's address. So they got to make it look cartoonish and weird so that we kind of laugh at it at first and we're like, oh, that's cool, before they let us know what they're really doing. Right? That's my opinion. I don't know.
Well, you'll get an argument here. You know, I mean, it's a lot of so much is revealed, especially entertainment wise. It's fascinating. You know, these small leaks and things that go on. But when it comes to some of the nefarious things dealing with time travel, you know, I wouldn't question it at all. Even things as simple as Otis Carr and Ralph Ring, they made that dimensional transport thing that was a patent, you know, and if you start reading what they were saying when they were actually using it, when you start actually looking at that patent and the scientists and the people that are involved, even beyond just Ring and Carr, what they started saying about that project, it's fascinating. You can look that stuff up.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, it's going to time displacement, time dilation, things of these nature.
Time dilation. You know, I mean, I just think of Doctor Strange. I love that movie. I love Doctor Strange. He just does a little circle like this and it opens up into a whole new universe, a parallel universe or whatever's going on there. Is that actually reality?
Well, you know, I mean, given now that we know that we've got, portals, wormholes, black holes exist.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's a matter of we've got them on the macro and micro scale as well. And, you know, like I'm pretty sure, like an example, the ships I've been on board, I think the way that they're opening up one of these wormholes is by both a plasma beam and maybe some type of gravity modulation technique. But I think they're using a plasma, high energy plasma also.
Plasma.
You know, to do this. Yeah. I think that's much more prevalent when dealing with some of these higher states of matter than we give credit. Anyway, sorry. I feel like I'm going way off left here.
No, not at all, because that was actually what we were talking about on Wednesday. Some sort of plasma something or another. I don't remember. But
well, that even comes back to the energy balls for the crop circles. That's the crop circles, the science wise. Sorry to interrupt you, Jessica. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Please interrupt, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
The crop circles that scientifically, what Levengood found out was that the grain had been exposed to this high energy plasma that generated this microwave electron avalanche is what it's called. And you look that up, you know, and what that does is actually made the seed, once it goes through the shock, much more resilient. And it started producing like twice the biofuel, twice the product of the seeds from before. Everything that was exposed in the crop circle. Yeah, definitely. The microwaves would kind of shock the seed, cook it a little. But then it also created this high energy plasma, created this electron avalanche. All those seeds had that characteristic. So when you start looking at that part of the crop circles, some of that is showing us how to deal with food shortage. Oddly,
you've said that before. Yeah.
Scientifically, you don't hear that though. You don't hear about what Living Good did with that stuff, or any of the, even down to the bent stems and how you can identify the real ones from. It's fascinating stuff when looking at some of that high energy. But then again, that's dealing with high energy plasma.
Yeah. Well, we're encountering that quite a bit on the subjects that you and I look into, Barry, is this high energy plasma. And of course, those orbs, when I remote viewed it, they were coming from some sort of source energy, something from source, and I actually even got a very important message to humanity when I was remote viewing it. Okay. And it made me sweaty, and I got really flustered when I was relaying this message on air that night. And that was on my remote viewing show. And it was a message about they know that we are tired, that we want to give up. A lot of us want to give up, but don't, because we are here. We're here with you. And they were thanking us for our teamwork and for us working together. For what, I don't remember. I don't think it, but it was just basically, keep going. We're here with you, and don't give up. We know you're tired. Heck yeah, I'm tired.
I think it's broadening the horizons of what's going on, because so much of what we're getting right now, like what I'm seeing in the contact scenario, a lot of it is a narrative now. You've got forces trying to turn it all into a narrative that limits each one of us, especially when dealing with trying to figure out what the hell is going on with those of us that are having positive contact versus those that are having negative. Trying to find that medium ground and understand why and how and the forces behind it is very, very important right now, and revealing that, because things aren't going good on this planet. That we're in trouble, bad right now. And we talk about time manipulation. Like I said, one of them is they're trying to always steer us towards nuclear war. That comes up again and again.
Why is that? Why?
Well, destruction. I've had all these experiences, but I always would ask, what's going to happen in the future? And they never tell. Oh, whoa, sorry.
Careful.
Sooner or later. I've been floating
Careful
with
now.
that. Anyway, they never give me anything about the future, but they've shown me the past in some cases. And I think that's because there's multiple timelines that we may manifest, and they don't know, or they're just not telling me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's up to us to change the timeline. For us, we have the power to change all this ourselves, if we choose to do so. And I believe it doesn't matter how many CERNs they turn on. I think that if we strive for our highest timeline, just never give up. Never give up. Keep striving for your highest timeline, and your highest vibration, and to be the best version of yourself, and to imagine your world into being. Manifest what you want out of life, because we're not here to go along with all this programming. I'm not. I don't know about y'all. I don't think Barry is. Barry, you're not either.
So you don't want to be spoon-fed crap forever.
That's why we're here.
This is the planet of, it's such a concocted world we live on here, of delusion. Just to throw something else in there. Something I'm looking forward to.
What's that?
I want to see the missing 411 UFO connection movie. As soon as it comes out, I want to see that one.
Yeah.
And I want to see what information comes of that. Hard evidence as far as, data.
I'm interested too. Mm-hmm. Well, David Paulides is a Bigfoot field researcher, or used to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that he probably knows that a lot of, but not a lot, maybe a few are tied to cryptids, some of the disappearances, but I think they're more ET related. I'm going to go out on a limb and say all roads lead back to ET. That's what some of the guys on my team always say.
He started a whole deal on Sasquatch. He's done probably 6 of them. Plus, he's one of them. And it's interesting because it gave me even a better perspective on the first book he wrote, the Hoopa one. But it was just full of articles. And after a while, I started finding it a little bit boring. That was just from years ago. You know what I mean? It's really to illustrate now how often they were said to be a tribe and human.
Yeah.
And how really it dispels the whole gorilla crap thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I get it. I like the way he's really presenting it now. It makes much more sense. And, dealing with madness. That DNA, what is the DNA that shows the maternal is human and the paternal is something else that's going to be possibly star being type of DNA?
Oh,
but, what type of star beings would that be on the paternal side? That's the DNA, and I know Melvin Ketchum was involved in that too, but he's doing stuff that they have so many different samples of DNA. It's really incredible that we never hear about. Yeah. And a lot of them turn that same thing up, but then again, it refers back to the human thing. And it's just, it's really interesting. Anyway, sorry, we're supposed to be talking about time travel. We're talking about old Bigfoot again, Sasquatch again.
It's all connected. It's all connected. Deb from SAC, thank you so much for that super sticker. You are the sweetest. We appreciate you here at Space Out Radio. You're awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's all connected. UFOs, ETs. You know what, Barry? I just got a sticker for my truck, and it is a Bigfoot holding the hand of an alien. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's gonna know who I am riding through town. I've got Bigfoot stickers on my truck and a Bigfoot holding hands with an alien. Not to say they're friends, but You know, they have been known to be in the same environment at the same time together. So,
well, even going to when this was obviously a Type 1 civilization in the past, and we were part of the galactic trade route or whatever.
yeah.
You know, you've got Sasquatch would have been part of that civilization back then. So they're still probably part of that civilization now. And we think that's not still going on here, but that takes us on the whole, you know, oh gosh, I want to say not crypto-terrestrials, crypto-terrestrial thing. You know, how many of these beings are still here on Earth and actually using out in space and far away as a total camouflage and a decoy when they're right here in the inner Earth and here with us in the oceans, living on this planet with us. That's the whole crypto-terrestrial hypothesis thing by Mac Toonies, who met an unfortunate death.
Yeah. Wow. It's fascinating stuff. Absolutely. And I love you too, William. Thank you for being here tonight. Yeah, there's we have so much more to look into. So we've got we'll be doing a whole bunch more shows, Barry. The topics are endless. Okay, when it comes to all of this stuff, and the least we can do is just look into it and question it, and put a little bit out there as to what we know and what we're learning and what we're researching. So, and our chat is amazing tonight. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in.
So I didn't look at it like I should have this time.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I pulled up a lot of comments. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for the super sticker tonight. Barry, where can people find you?
I'm on YouTube and on Patreon. YouTube is probably, I've got a lot of information on there, and just under Barry Littleton, and my website's barrylittleton.com, but that only leads to a couple of those, and I haven't done much work on that, so probably YouTube is the best way. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram too under Barry Littleton. I try to do a little communication there as well. So.
Yeah, just Google Barry Littleton. Everything pops up. Yeah, go to his website. So, Barry, it has been another fantastic show with you tonight. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully we stayed on topic enough this time. I didn't get too weird or whatever. And,
we always get weird.
I apologize for not looking at the comments like I should have. So
it's
I was
totally
carried
great.
away or something weird.
You did perfect. You did perfect. It was awesome. Barry, please come back and join me again in the future. Okay. Thank you for being here tonight. It was amazing. Okay. We'll see you next time, Barry. Thank you. Okay. All right, y'all. Barry is awesome. He's always awesome. Okay. Don't forget that right after this show, you can join me. Don't join me. Join the After Hours crew. They're going to take you on an incredible journey for the next 3 hours. I'll see y'all next weekend on Off the Trails. I can't wait to see y'all then. But for now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. I'm headed off the trails. I hope you guys have a safe and wonderful week. And I will see y'all back here next week. All right. Bye, y'all.